That's James's dinner. He made himself peanut butter sandwich and mixed some stuff with some rice. And I just fried up some bell peppers mixed with red onions and put some cilantro and some mango stuff. Well, it's this stuff, that mango curry. And I'm going to be talking about the Forgiven and these other things. And James is going to talk more about that Moscow book.
Down and out and on the run.
Yep. So, and I'm going to drink hot lemon and honey, which is awesome. And I had some of this mango curry and it was really good. I think James will like it. It's all I did is, it says it's a cooking sauce, but honestly I don't want to have to clean that out of the pan, and I don't want to have to use the dishwasher that often, so I just drizzle it on top and it seems to work out really well. It does have a little bit of onion in it, but just eating a little bit like that, it didn't give me too bad of a headache. So if onions trigger headaches for you, then this sauce may not, because it's okay. So the Unforgiven. Now this one got the top of the pile rating. I was surprised. Well, I like Ralph Fiennes, or if you say Rafe, I'm not sure. I like him as an actor, and I also like that woman. What's her name? Jessica Chastain. I like her.
Yeah, it's a French.
So she's very good.
Yep. Pretty sure.
Honestly, I thought it was great. It's interesting. Like, this is set in Morocco, and you have a bunch of some American, some French, some although the French may be a little bit pretentious, but anyway, and some British people staying at this. There's a couple of gay men who bought this big castle, really Moroccan castle, and they've had it fixed up, and they're going to be inviting guests and stuff like that to stay there. But I mean, the locals aren't really too keen on homosexuals owning this big castle. But
is this
they work
modern
there.
day sort of thing?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of locals who are working there, and they're portrayed as like servants, right, to these wealthy white people who have wealthy white friends coming to visit them from around, and something happens. I guess I could say what happens. Local, because it says on the back, so if you read the back, you know what's going to happen anyway. A local boy ends up getting run over by one of the couple who are driving along, and the man, he's had too much to drink, he's driving too fast. But honestly, you can't expect somebody to stop for you when you jump out on the road. So there's that too, right? So you can kind of see where the guy is like, you know what, this guy jumped out in the road, but he did do something to try to get away with it better, and that's not good. But anyway, so you're going through this whole story, and at the end, at the beginning, you're thinking, okay, this guy who hit the local young man or boy is, I mean, he would be, in his culture, he would not be considered a boy. He would be a young man. They're portraying him as a boy, a local boy. Not in his culture. He would not be a local boy. He would be a young man. But
in other words, he was at least an adolescent. Right?
Yes. So, and when you do that, when you, and they have the local people referring to him as a boy. No, he would not be in his culture.
No.
It's racist. The people who have made this movie and portrayed that young man that way, it really is culturally insensitive to do so. You're thinking you're being culturally sensitive. You are not.
You don't understand.
You don't
couldn't
understand
be bothered
it.
to understand the local culture.
So, in any case, at first you're looking at this guy who hit the young man as being just a total jerk. Just some jerk white guy who's total racist, and you're kind of, and at the end, you don't think that. At the end you're like, no, he's a good guy, and the rest of the people that he's hanging out with maybe, but he's a good guy. And it's an interesting kind of thing. You see things, at first you're very sure that he's not a good guy. At the end, you're pretty sure he is. And it's good to get the whole story. You get a little bit, and you think, oh yeah, I'm going to jump on that, and that's my opinion. No, you need more information. And it's interesting to watch this because you know what's going to happen, and honestly, they know too. Like at the end, the couple, the homosexual couple says, lock the gates just in case, after they leave, right? And you know, and you knew right away when the father came to the gate, you knew what was going to happen. And yet it's great to see the whole story. So in any case, however you feel about local laws or whatever, when you're going into a different culture, you should behave according to their laws. And it's or you're going to have some problems. I mean, James was talking a while back about a woman who was a rock star, and she just moved out into the countryside in America where she was from, but it was a different culture, and they did not treat her like they treated her like she was an outsider. So
they treated her very badly.
Very badly.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
we're not going to mention the state, but it was in the United States.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend people watch this movie. I don't totally agree with everything that they did here, but I think it was worth watching. Top of the stack, after all. Now, you look at the others in my stack and go, okay, well maybe if Hallmark gets the second billing in the top of the stack, then I don't know. But so anyway, crossword mysteries, proposing murder. I was looking at this and I thought, okay, yeah, a lot of older people like doing crosswords. Well, why do they have this young couple on here that's solving the mystery or whatever? I mean, because sure, she's a lovely young woman and everything, but they could have a lovely older woman. Like somebody who's, say, 55-ish or something, even.
Or
not
older,
that much older.
like Miss Marple,
or
and
even
Agatha
older,
Christie
yeah.
look alike.
But who's making these crosswords for the newspaper? But and solving mystery. But anyway, I was watching this Hallmark, and it's just so clean. The murder, everything seems so clean. The lighting is really bright, everything's white and dazzling, and everyone's really clean pressed. And I'm thinking, this is not very true to life. But at the same time, the mystery was okay, and I like mysteries, so second stack.
You don't like crosswords that much, though, so you're still young.
Yeah.
I don't know how old William W.H. Auden, Whiston Hugh Auden, he liked both crossword puzzles and murder mystery stories.
Okay.
So I suspect he liked them even when he was younger.
I don't know if I'll ever like crossword puzzles. But in any case, Countdown. This one kind of reminded me, when I was watching this, I was like, oh, it's kind of like the Forgiven that way. You know it's going to happen. And eventually it does. So I didn't find this horror movie to be really that entertaining. It's not nearly as fun to watch as the what was that one with the roller coaster and stuff? I can't remember the name of it. But they did a series, and one of them had a roller coaster, and one of them had an airplane. I think the first one had an airplane that was going to crash. Oh, I can't remember the name, but that series was pretty good. That horror movie too. The Lodge.
You're not talking about snakes on the plane, though, or anything like that?
No.
Good.
No. The Lodge. This one was creepy. There's but it wasn't very. It was pretty boring at the same time. I don't know how much I really scare a lot of, I don't know how much a lot of Christian people scare me. I don't know. Even if somebody goes kind of, if they have problem with their sanity, I guess there is some. But anyway, the whole horror movie with Christian, whatever. It doesn't do it for me. I can't think of one where I've been like, oh yeah, that was really scary or really entertaining or anything. And I know you're sitting back there and you're thinking The Exorcist. I didn't actually care for it. So anyway, Granny Nanny. This one you're going to have to read some subtitles, and honestly it's not worth it. Bottom of the stack. If I'm going to have to read subtitles, I won't be able to do other things. I was able to write poetry while watching all of these other ones. So whatever. Bottom of the stack. But James is going to talk to you about whatever. How did you like that mango sauce?
Well, it's pretty good. I like the whole thing. Down and Out and On the Run in Moscow. It's a takeoff of the title of something written by Orwell, George Orwell, that is. What was his real name? Blair? Something Blair? Not Tony Blair.
Oh yeah, they told us in that movie. James just finished watching Mr. Jones. He got me to hold it back from the library from returning it.
You returned it?
I did. Because he wanted to watch it. But, I mean, you could talk about that too while you're going.
Well, I was intending on doing that.
Yeah, because they did give us his real name in that. I remember, but I just don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I've forgotten the first name. I'd known that it was Orwell was a pseudonym.
Yeah.
So this was written by a friend of mine at university a long time ago. And his dad. And a guy who interviewed Austin Martin about his little experiences in Moscow. The name of that interview is John Williams. So Austin Martin's the name of the author, and Ernest Martin is the name of his dad. His dad's dead now. Austin Martin was quite a bit younger than me. He was born in 1960. Is that what they're saying? Austin means, it's short for Augustine, something like that, Augustus, which means venerable. That which it should be, maybe almost venerated or something like that. Ernest means, well, earnest. And John means the grace of God. Well, the grace of Jehovah, the grace of the Lord.
And well, if James does talk about Mr. Jones, it would get the top of the stack rating above The Forgiven.
For you.
Yeah, if I had to.
I haven't seen these other ones, but it'll be top of several different stuff. It would definitely be on top of everything I watched recently. The Young Karl Marx, is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Anyway, this relates the experiences of, so I finished this up 27th of February. Relates the experiences of Austin Martin. So this is not a novel. Austin Martin, I think it's something like March. It's almost exactly to the day. Back in 1991. So, what is that? 32 years ago. More than a generation ago. So he was there in Moscow, Russia, in the spring of 91, early spring, and I was there in the fall of 91, just after the Soviet Union fell. He was there just before it fell. And Like get ready for some spoiler alerts and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. This is a real life story. Austin Martin is a member of the Order of Canada. He always wanted to get that distinction, and he eventually got it. I don't think it's any secret. He's got it to a certain extent because he's done some work for helping people understand what schizophrenia is like. He's a schizophrenic, or he's been diagnosed as one. And I don't think it's any secret. It runs in the family, generally. I have had a sister, she's dead now, who's schizophrenic, or diagnosed as such. And my chances of being schizophrenic were based on having one sibling with schizophrenia. It would be about 9%. If one of your parents is schizophrenic, the chance is considerably higher. I don't think it's up to 50%. But it's considerably higher than the 9% risk I ran. The chances of me developing schizophrenia are quite remote, seeing that I'm almost 69. As of the 7th of May this year, I will be, if I survive that long, survive my cancer that long, probably. It used to be called schizophrenia, that is, it used to be called dementia praecox, or people probably mispronounce it, precocious. I think that would be from Latin. And so you'd say it praecox, but most people would say precox or something like that. So I don't know whether, so Austin was under a lot of stress. I can remember when we landed.
So you're saying maybe Russia put him over the edge?
It might
set
be.
off his
It might have been.
schizophrenia.
It might have been. So when we landed in Moscow, I was going with a tour. Austin didn't go with a tour, and that was a bit of a challenge for him. Based on the story, and I'm sure that part of the story is very close to reality. So when we landed, I was sitting next to he wasn't part of the tour, a representative from IKEA who was coming from Sweden. We'd had a stopover in Scandinavia, in Sweden, and he must have got, we changed planes, and we got onto an SAS plane, actually. I think coming back, we were in the last trip from Moscow by SAS at that point in time. Very last. So this is one of the last going in, presumably, and he was IKEA representative. And so we were waiting on the tarmac, I guess it was, and they had one of these conveyor belts with luggage. And the whole idea with a conveyor belt is when it comes to a corner, with the luggage, it's generally coming down out of the plane, and it takes a corner, the luggage is supposed to stay on the conveyor belt. Well, it started falling off. And all the IKEA guy said to me, he'd been there before. He was, I don't know, I guess IKEA was moving into the market if they hadn't already moved in. Anyway, the Russian market. All he said was, "Welcome to Russia. Welcome to Russia." And what happened to Austin Martin when he gets into Moscow? There's no luggage for him. And he made the mistake. And it's mistakes. I mean, I went there with a shaver, but I didn't have a converter. So I couldn't shave while I was there. Not that it has terribly concerned me terribly much most of the time to have
facial hair?
Yeah, or not. Mm-hmm. And
you were having to kiss somebody, because your hair is like,
yeah, it's pretty
bristly.
It's like I'm a wild boar.
Yeah, I think boars would have softer hair than you.
Yeah, probably. But I try not to be boorish. But anyway, that's a different thing. Boar-like. Boorish actually means to be farmer-like. At any rate, the German Bauer, which is cognative, the English boer, it just means farmer. And boer in Dutch which kind of means farmer, settler, colonialist down in South Africa, just means farmer as well. They're all cognate, which means they're related, and not that distantly either. At any rate, he had in his suitcase, apparently, Austin Martin, back to the main story, he had his wallet with his American money and with his traveler's checks. He had a little bit of change on him, and he had to go with that. So huge stress, and like, who stole his luggage? Now, he was figuring and that it was that he was being mistaken for an uncle of his. So Austin hails from southern Alberta, maybe born in Lethbridge, I'm not sure, or he hails from Canada. His dad, however, as I recall, was from Texas and had done maybe some schooling in England or something like that, back and forth, whatever. But originally hailed from Texas, so Austin had a namesake, he might have been named after him too, an uncle, called Austin Martin in Texas, who'd done some work with the military, or something like that. High-tech stuff in the United States. And he was figuring, and I suspect he was right, that he was being mistaken for his uncle, and they were figuring he was a spy. So the big trouble is, he was figuring there was a possibility that he was being poisoned, so he wasn't eating, and he was being very alert. In other words, he wasn't getting sleep, and all the stuff added up. And I'm afraid it was too much for him to take. These sorts of things happen. You know, like people don't get enough sleep, and if bipolar syndrome is in their family, they got a genetic predisposition, like Patty Duke. You don't get enough sleep, it might be just a day or so. That can trigger an initial bipolar reaction, and then they basically got the tendency, at least for the rest of their lives. And you've got to handle it with things like lithium. I gather that there are some bad side effects with lithium, but it's a whole lot better, I gather, than bipolar syndrome. And people, when they get into the dumps with that, they can be driven to suicide. But Austin, so far as I know, is still around, and that sort of stuff. And it's a exciting story. Now, this used to belong to the Lethbridge Public Library. I'm going to name them. And I'm not a flat earther, so find out what the Greek for flat is, and find out what the Latin for earth is, and you'll know who I'm talking about. But under her reign, shall we say, they've been dumping all sorts of books. This book is written, are you listening, Flat Earth? This, and her supporters, this book is written by a person, I don't know if he was born in Lethbridge, but he's lived a long time in Lethbridge, formative years at the very least here, in Lethbridge. They've got a whole separate section. This book used to be there in that section for native-born authors or native authors, people who come from Lethbridge and lived a long time. People like Yvonne Trainer, Richard Stevenson. I think they've got Ken Sears, maybe at least one of his books. He doesn't have many, I don't think. You do not get rid of books like that. Shame on you. So this book was, as I was suggesting the other day, I didn't really give a review of it, was really put together by a guy. He's very, very humble. Editor's forward. And it's just given as LOE. So that I'm pretty sure, I don't think he'd mind people knowing. That's Larry. I suspect it's Oliver. I think he was probably named after his dad. I used to work kind of with him in the city. They used to call him Ollie Erdus, Oliver Erdus. So I suspect he was named after his dad. All that like I think this Larry Erdus, he did a good job here. There are some mistakes and stuff like that. I'd like to see a second edition. The artwork is reasonably good. This is recognizably Austin Martin back in the day. And, some of the artwork's quite good. Maybe not generally up to that portrait of Austin Martin. But it's a gripping story. There's a few things that people would find politically incorrect. I'm changing the term. That might apply to the 90s. I'm calling stuff politically unhealthy. And pretty soon it's going to be politically suicidal. In other words, people, the nifty lefties out there are getting so head up about things, they'll actually be putting out, they basically do when they talk about Islamophobia, because that's basically a call for people who don't like blasphemy against Islam and related things like the Prophet and so on and so forth. It's a call for them to kill them. Okay? So, for example, Ian Hersey Alley, who's on lots of people's hit lists. Her a one-time co-worker, a descendant of Vincent van Gogh. Well, I wouldn't call it descendant, but a long-distance relative of Vincent van Gogh, a guy called Theo van Gogh, was killed. What was that?
Wouldn't have been a descendant.
No, I don't think so. But related distantly down the pike. He was killed by folks who wanted to kill him and for blasphemy, and they did. So there's stuff in here that's politically incorrect. Austin, he says, I always voted conservative in here. I want you to understand, I've never voted conservative. I've never voted liberal, frankly. Last election I did strategic voting. But just strategic voting. Always voted NDP. Now I pulled the plug on the NDP. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. There've been so much racism. I call it race mania, and the NDP and people allied with them. That it's called identity politics. Well, that's a slight misnomer. What do we call that kind of misnomerism? Euphemism. Huh? Identity politics is racism. Huh? Stop the nonsense. Stop the insanity, as Susan P. used to say in the day. Maybe that was 30 years ago. Anyway, if you can track this down, it comes recommended. But put on your seatbelt, put on your helmet, and put something in between your teeth, because you're going to find it a shock. Anyway, take care.